Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. And I know some of you may be watching the recording, so welcome to the recording. This is just a sort of ad hoc live session that I thought I'd put together on May 3rd. It's a employment number, employment situation, as they call it in Fed speak, coming in about a half hour. And I just thought I'd walk you through some of my pre-market prep for the day. This is a daily on the S&P futures. All right. We had a nice rally from the lows on October 19th. It's April 19th. Right. Nice rally, pull back to the 30, perfect secretariat, and then a pull back down to, and I use the Fibonacci just to kind of give me perspective. But what's interesting here is look at this day, the 30th, April 30th, May 1st, and May 2nd, all tagged this 50 to 38, 5,038, 5,050. In fact, during the Fed announcement, I made put a post in Slack about 52. 52 seems to be the magic number. VWAP is 52. The support is for 52. And the point of control that day was 52. And it bounced on the Fed announcement. It bounced 3 times off 52 before it rallied like that, 60 points, only to fail and go all the way back to 52. A couple of guys in the futures room, we were having a little fun, and we had a really good day. Is that 52 going to be on my radar? Absolutely. Absolutely. What are some of the other numbers that I'm going to be looking at? Well, 51.33 is the 30 moving average, right? A valid test for that, right? The 50 moving average is 51.82. It's way up here. Is that a factor? Usually not, but on an earnings announcement day, absolutely. All right, I'm painting a sandbox, and I'll show you how I do that. 5038 is that prior support over here, and 5052, that sort of magic number that we talked about. It kept bouncing on Fed day. If it rips in the first few minutes all the way down to that 52, that's an area where I'm looking to be a buyer. So it's kind of a cheat sheet. I don't do anything that fancy, but really what I'm doing is just making high-level notes so I'm prepared. And like I said, I'm not going to get into the whole, did I have my coffee? Did I wake up properly? Good sleep? That's all important. But for this, I want a prep sheet that's going to help me with my trading. So Apple, and again, I'm not being very fancy here. I'm just kind of just getting it down. Apple earnings yesterday. All indexes up in Globex. Globex is just the overnight session. So let's go. So we have that. We'll get back to that too. So real quick, overnight high, overnight low. I want to know, where are we in relation to the overnight? So we're still in the overnight session. So that's obviously can change. But the overnight high was 51.18 and the overnight low is 50.99. Very small range, which is very normal for like pre-announcement kind of stuff. Yesterday's range was 77 points, and I marked that there too. Why is that? These are kind of key numbers I want to see. Are we going to stay inside yesterday's range or outside? How they react is sort of important in that regard. Right now, we're inside, but it did pierce the overnight high. I mean, yesterday's high was pierced. So the overnight was yesterday's high was 51.13. It did hit an overnight high of 51.18. So this sort of natural inside day is kind of tainted a little bit, probably because of Apple. This is a big one for me. The percent is overnight short, long or short. So in other words, how many people from the overnight, from the time it closed yesterday to now, who's long and who's short? And the answer is 100% are long. It never went in the red all after hours, starting from Apple's earnings, and that obviously was the catalyst, right? What dominant side must be trapped? Might be trapped. The longs. So everyone's long, they're piling in. Who's potentially trapped? That's what I want to see. I want to see who's going to be panicked. If you're long right now and the announcement comes out and the market rips 30 points, they're all happy. They're not trapped. Are gap closure rules in play today? So in other words, and there's more to that. We could almost have a mastermind call on that. But the gap is basically price moving from the overnight back to where price closed. If everyone's long, is the gap closure rules in play? Yes, because it's like a contrarian thing. There's a potential for traders overnight to be trapped. They got involved on the Apple news and all that. So they're in a good spot right now. But now they're thinking, well, what are they thinking? This is great now, but like I got unemployment news coming out. So what do I do? So they're probably going to be a spot where it's going to be a great day for them, or they may go into panic mode. So I'm looking for maybe a pop, maybe on the news, and then back to its original point, and then we can maybe short that to a gap play. So gap rules in play? Absolutely. Yes. And I'm watching the news. I got 4 minutes. So what's the quirky nuances? Apple earnings has everyone overnight long. That would be a quirky nuance. So scenario, a pop up. We talked about this, a pop up on unemployment news, but light, right? If it rips 60 points, not that, I'm going to kind of lose interest. And then back below price at news. What's the other scenario? Up. So that's my up strategy. Down into gap or key numbers. What are those numbers? We talked about that. 5052, 5038. And then the up. Right? And what were my other numbers we talked about? 5133 and 518. Okay. So very quickly, I have sort of a mini game plan. I have a scenario if it pops up on the news or if it goes down at the open. So the other thing I want to check is, I always do, what is VWAP at? So let me just go back to I got rid of my screen. So 5106 is VWAP. So we're about 5 points away from there. That's like nothing, okay? A VWAP will help me, but price 5 points away on a news number is not going to help me, right? If it pops 30 points up, right, or 30 points down, that's going to be my magnet. So that's going to be sort of like the magnet where I'll trade. That would be going to result in my target. If you notice this pop, right, this is what I would almost like to see. A resumption and then kind of failure, right? So rather than see like a pop, hang out, and then fail, I'd almost rather see a pop, come down, resume, and then kind of fail. And again, a lot of it's is risk reward and what's in your plan and what you're eligible to do. So you're constantly like, this is the mindset that you're thinking if you're scalping that. My most important thing I want you to bring out of this is the mindset. Like I'm just talking out loud what I normally just thinking is, you remember the 30 moving average? That's like a legitimate thing that I'm like in my scenario. 5133. When the VWAP starts to creep, and even the Hikinashi, even the Hull moving average to the 33, now I sort of got like double magnets. That becomes very interesting to me. So while my pre-market prep is very static in the sense of this is what happened overnight, this is what's going on, now all of a sudden I have like new information. I'm building my new narrative, right? That probably will take me into the open. I'm liking this P formation. I mean, this is, I call it P formation, but that's really what's doing. The pop and a hold. Is that something to short into? If you look at the math, just risk reward, and look at quirky nuances, the test of VWAP is highly probable during the day of a news event. So I have to think it's like sort of a number that's in the back of my head now. And again, it doesn't mean the world's crashing. Market can drop, say, 15 points. It's still a huge day and then resume to new highs. What also I'm starting to paint a scenario is my mind is starting to fade away from my initial, not trying to go against it, but initial scenarios, because I'm getting new information now, right? It's getting very comfortable here. Buyers and sellers are kind of, matched up pretty nicely here, right, until something changes. I'm thinking, what if it breaks those pre-market highs early in the session and it goes back into it? So say it goes to 51.65 or something like that, and then goes back into it. That could be a short too. In fact, I don't want to toggle too much, but I would literally be writing it down on my sheet. But the bottom line is you have a big pop and really a very flat range, like a 10 point, 10, 12 point range after that. Who's going to win this battle? Right? When you see that P formation, it's just buyers either drying up or not committing, sellers not panicking, trying to panic, or just this balance. But that's what it is. It's balanced trade. Who's going to win this battle? And basically the answer to that is, yeah, you don't know. But really the math answer to that is, well, historically, the battle is won by the longs because it's continuation. However, there's a mathematical note that says in my building my scenario saying there's about a 7% chance and higher that, including on unemployment number days, that the VWAP is tested during the regular session. I tend to be very data driven, so I tend to go with the math. So if you notice my tone, it's another thing that we talked about market context, like listen to your tone. Am I sounding like I'm a big, massive bull here? I should be. I mean, market goes up every day, but my tone is like, well, the numbers say we're going to test certain things. And I like the fact that things like VWAP is starting to get close to that 51.33. The 51.33, which was originally like a target, it's very healthy to pull back to a 30 moving average. It's just normally healthy. And I love the risk reward, even though the like percent success probably isn't, but you can pull your stop to a break even, in this area if it, gets anywhere under 40. So this is where like your scenarios come into play. Is this something where you say go with the trend, or is this something where like, well, I'm going to take advantage of price having a normal healthy pullback? By the way, there's another scenario that I'm going to add to my thing today is during the regular session, if price pulls back, I'm thinking, a long bounce as well. So, but where would I go long? I'm not going long here. There's no way. Pull back to VWAP is a very viable. Pull back to VWAP, that phrase is almost viable in any scenario. So we had Apple earnings has everyone overnight long, 50, 52, 50, 38. There was my downside extreme. That was my baby. That was my number. Not gonna happen yet. You never know. Boy, if it could pull back all the way to there, that would be the short of the year. All right, here's my upside. See how the pre-market notes that I put in my little scratch sheet. That's really what it is a scratch sheet. It shouldn't look perfect. It should be like numbers all over, but not too many. And like I said, this isn't about how many hours of sleep I got and did my meditation workout this morning. All good stuff. Journal it, but not for the scratch sheet. This is like sort of diner breakfast napkin kind of stuff that you're, when you're, if you're at a restaurant or something for breakfast and you're just scribbling stuff. 51.33, 51.82. VWAP 51.06, but of course that has changed. It's going to be going higher. So these are sort of the numbers. These I can almost put like a strike through that. Right? What's the dominant side that might be trapped? Longs. Is that still true? Yes, they're all 100% of all participants, at least in theory, are longs. I mean, the shorts may be coming in, and market profile math says that that has to be corrected. Does that have to be corrected today? Well, preferably in the pre-market. So we are still hovering around 51.47. That's just amazing. The more this happens, by the way, the more you have to think continuation. I'm thinking that. It doesn't have to be, but a retest of even 58 is actually viable. You could type in the chat too if you want. Does the price action that you're seeing in the first 30 minutes here, is it making you think something? Like, is it making you think more long, or these shorts are trapped? Right. The more that happens, the more I'm thinking we're going to retest go back to those highs. But as this happens, right, buyers are still in control. There's no real sellers that came in, take a stand, right? Which I don't blame them, to be honest. So I have to start thinking, and as we get towards regular session, long pullbacks, right? The two I had in my scenario, I always check USD CAD. So, all right, so USD pairs, USD is probably getting hit. All right, let me just check. USD JPY, what a move. I mean, it kissed 160. When we talked about round number quirky nuances, right? This is one of the Mexican dollar, right? I don't know if we mentioned in the pre-market. I'm not sure, but I had it in my notes, my long term. So I think there's a long here on the USD Mexican MXN. Again, I think there is. There is a secretariat long. And by the way, I know I mentioned it about 7 days ago. I don't know. I got a bad print on my chart, so This is a false. Okay. I love the scenario, Rob. And again, the fact isn't the right answer. The fact that you're playing it out in your head, like you don't want to chase the SPX here. But if a pull back to 50%, I'm interested. Rob, I want you to comment if you can put 50% of what? Of the pre-market move? Or like 50% of the last like 10 days or something. I'm just curious. There's no wrong answer. Yeah, I like that too. What would that, I mean, I'm lazy here. What would that number be? You could tell right now what that number would be, right? Is it safe to say, and again, you don't have to go to fib or anything like that. This is just like how I'm just showing my scenario. What was the 50? Because remember, it pulled right back to VWAP, 5107 or so, and 5057, 50 points range. What a shocker. By the way, that's another quirky new one. So 25 would be half, right? That's why I don't go measuring things. 25. So it's 25, about 32. By the way, I made in one of the videos we did, I made a hint about like, and someone says, well, how do you know if you don't have charts, like if you're not trading off charts, how do you know this? And I go, I just look at 5100 and 5200. Halfback is about 5150. And what do you think the 618 is? About 5140, right? Because it's 60%, give or take. One of the challenges I have in teaching, like the YouTube, everything wants to be exact. And you'll notice in my scenario, one of the takeaways of this discussion, or at least me yapping, is you notice how I'm trying to talk out my scenarios. It's all just about feel, a lot about tempo. What's going on? How are the shorts? If you were short, how you be feeling? By the way, what is 50%? First thing I thought, what is 50% of the move? Pullback. 5133. What's the number in my scenario thing? 5133. So if I was short here, what would be my targets? I'm going to go with Rob's 50% because Rob told me. Rob said 5133, so I'm holding him accountable. 5133, right? And what? VWAP or something like, but probably VWAP is up there now, actually. Yeah, so VWAP is my little white line there. Okay. Of course it is. I don't know why I'm not thinking that. It would be 5133. And I would go like even, just a random 10 points, something like that. So 5137, 5124. All right. And that's going to 5125. And that's obviously going to go higher and higher as we chug along. All right. But I like the sort of pull back into this bull flag and then go long, that kind of thing. Does that kind of conflict with my scenario of gap fill? That gap fill sort of scenario now is starting to fade very quickly with that pop. No, where's price the natural magnet to go to? Pull back to about 30, 35 or so, 33, 35. So we'll wrap up, and what would be the scenarios here? Continuation to new highs, or in theory, a pullback and then continuation to new highs. That would be sort of like, now I'm repainting my scenarios. Like this is sort of like transition from my scenario sheet to pre-market and included more of a daily thing. All right. So let's go over my pre-market prep. Right. Overnight high, 51.19. It blew that away. So for those, actually you could think of it, for those like sort of retailers, play the overnight high. Oh, I'm going to play the breakout of the overnight high. Okay, there you go. There's your 51.18. So they're in good shape. The overnight low, it pulled back right at the news and just held it and didn't worry about it. Yesterday's range is now blown out. So we're in an outside day. So yesterday's range was 51.36 to 51.13. So 51.13, a test of that high of yesterday, is very, very viable. So I can't go to another page. I kind of loaded this up with pre-market stuff, but okay. So let's look at, so 51.13 is another key number on my thing. So I'm going to mark that in my chart. Price inside yesterday's range? Absolutely not, right? Overnight shorts, short or long? Still 100% long. That's the one thing in the back of my head says there's too many longs here. What dominant side might be trapped? Longs. Are gap closure rules in play? Yes. Regular session? Yes, but a lot less. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I not really. Right? It can happen, and if it does, it probably happen without me. Quirky nuances. Apple earnings has everyone long overnight. Right? Downside extremes. probably not in play. 51.33, these are numbers from yesterday, pre-market. 51.33, very much in play. 51.92 to the upside. And VWAP 51.06, that obviously with scenarios. Pop up on unemployment, but light. And then back below price at news, okay? Highly unlikely, or less of likeliness, but did pop up. And then the back price below news, well, it probably maybe I'm thinking more pullback to go long. Down into the gap on key numbers, that scenario has been number 2 as pretty much for the most part, unless something happens, been wiped out. And the scenario strategy, okay, down to gap numbers didn't happen. And I had something here, but maybe I didn't finish it. So you notice how my pre-market prep sheet is kind of like sloppy. It should be very back of the napkin. So you don't need to be like, this is super sloppy, but it gives me what I need. It gives me the tools I need. And I'm going to just sort of refine this real quick before we go live in the live session. So, because I don't need a lot of this stuff now, although you never know, might play out. So still hanging around on 51.45. That's classic. So now as we open, I'll just take another 5 minutes, like maybe 10 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. Just see the pop in the open. If it pops, this is like literally a scenario, and I'm going to. Okay. Regular session. Pop up over overnight highs and back into below 51.50, 51.33. So pop up overnight highs, back into 51.50 range, look for short to 51.33. By the way, 51.50 is a really good Van Halen album. So I like that trade even more. Okay. But again, the goal of this was not about, trade or not, or anything. It's about building your narrative. It's in the open here. Building your narrative throughout the pre-market. What happened, what didn't really come to fruition. And then, it would just make sense to retest those highs. Remember that scenario that 72% of the time VWAP will be tested throughout the day on a pop like this? One, it sounds like, oh my God, there's no way. But VWAP is moving up. The VWAP is at 51.30. So I'm liking that scenario of pull back to VWAP, whatever it is at that point. And I love the 51.33 area confluence, and then see how it reacts long from there. Test the new highs. Somebody needs to be in pain right here, and no one's in pain. Very few people are probably short, and there's no issue there. They're hanging in there. The longs are not panicking, but they're the ones, everyone's 100% long. And when there's 100% long from there's a lot of participants, but when you're 100% from the close of yesterday, that's usually, there's a pullback. And the pullback is the VWAP. So again, the 51.45 pointing, so to speak, 10-point stop. Now you're looking at more of a 1.5 to 1 risk reward, maybe even 1.25 to 1. Not as advantageous as it was earlier. Okay, if you're using VWAP as your target, now it'd be a moving target. I got to say, I'm kind of baffled by this like weird price action range, for an unemployment number, but that will not stay. It's one thing I've known. Somebody's going to give it up. So what's a reference point for the rest of the day? Thanks, John. Thank you. New high, the highs, the 57 area. So when you're looking to go long, you can paint your picture of what would be my risk reward. Well, one of the components of the risk reward would be, testing the highs. 536-ish. It's really the potential spot for a long. All right, take it too highs. And that scenario. There's just been too high, too long up here to digest. So let's shake some weak longs out, and then we'll rip without them. That's the thinking. That's kind of like my number one scenario as we leave for today. All right, guys. Thanks for joining, and we'll see where this plays out. Any last questions? Just send them in Slack. If not, you guys have a good regular session. All right.